I always thought the harbor was just our secret playground, until the day I slipped beneath its waves and felt myself sinking into absolute silence. In that moment of fear, I heard a gentle voice call my nickname, Kuka, and a radiant being lifted me into a realm of shimmering light. I watched my life unfurl in vivid hues and learned that I was born to heal and to sing. This is the story of a 7-year-old's plunge that revealed a destiny beyond imagination. In the summer of 1961, something extraordinary unfolded at the harbor, a place that, to my 7-year-old self, was both thrilling and off-limits. It was there I first encountered a spiritual realm so profoundly different, words can barely touch upon it. I woke that morning to the rasp of the alarm clock by my bedside, a cheap, tin-rattling thing that never quite managed to play a proper tune. Grandma's porridge was waiting in the kitchen, steam curling off the bowl so fiercely that I burned my tongue on the very first bite. Outside, the air already shimmered with summer heat. The scent of salt and tar rose from the narrow lane where fishing nets dried in the sun. My mother was at the stove before dawn, humming an old hymn under her breath as she ladled porridge into chipped bowls. She fussed over my little brother's hair with a worn comb that left strands clinging to the teeth. I slipped out of the kitchen as quietly as a mouse, spoon half empty, mind already racing. School didn't start until 9, but I felt pinned by waiting, pinned by the lectures on proper table manners, by my father's insistence that I finish my math homework before I could play, by the polite small talk of neighbors who considered Peter not quite right. I couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was out there, just beyond the harbor pier. My bones itched to be free of routine. The creak of the school gate, the dust-choked chalk in the classroom, the low murmur of pens scratching exercise books. My pulse quickened when I thought of Peter, his laughter ringing across the quay, his wild stories of distant seas, his fearless grin even when everyone else sneered. By mid-morning, I had finished my chores, swept the doorstep, carried buckets of laundry down to the well, delivered a basket of eggs to Mrs. Holm, who rewarded me with a crooked smile and a wink that said she knew all about my dreams. I dropped the basket, careful not to crack the eggs, and squeezed past the row of sleepy cats draped over the fence. I pressed my ear to the broad plank door of our cottage, listening for Mom's voice telling me to behave. When I heard nothing but the drip of the laundry tub, I slipped outside again, heart pounding with delicious guilt. I craved the harbor like I craved sunshine after a week of rain. That place was our secret kingdom. 2 ropes lashed under the bulwark, a bait-smelling raft tied between fishing boats, the gulls dipping and squawking overhead. There, age and fear meant nothing. There, Peter and I made pacts we whispered into the wind, promising never to lose sight of childhood wonder even when the world told us to grow up. My palms still itched from yesterday's math quiz, but none of that mattered now. I could almost taste the salt on my lips as I climbed the bulwark, my heart a drumbeat in my chest. I paused for a long moment, the sun warming my back, the harbor stretching out like a glittering promise. I took a slow breath, trying to hold on to every sound, the creak of wood, the distant ring of a church bell, Peter's soft whistle echoing off the water. I didn't know it yet, but that morning would rewrite everything. Everything seemed to unfold in slow motion. I slipped into the water silently, eyes open, and gradually sank vertically into the depths, aware only of the profound silence. Though I couldn't swim, a surprising sense of calm enveloped me. My arms flailed for a heartbeat that stretched into an eternity. One moment I was sprinting toward the bulwark, The next, I had misjudged my leap and found only cold, crushing water where the raft should have been. The surface rippled once above me and then vanished, leaving me enveloped in a vacuum of green-black stillness. As I sank, the heat of the summer sun was replaced by an icy pinch against my skin. My lungs, accustomed to shallow gulps of morning air, protested instantly, a sharp panic blooming behind my ribs. Yet strangely, I felt no struggle, only a widening sense of detachment, as if my consciousness had peeled away from every fiber of my body. A metallic tang filled my mouth. Not blood, but something like the residue of rusted metal washed downstream. With each downward inch, the harbor's high-pitched gull cries faded into a muted echo, and the light filtering through the water above me dimmed to a dusky gray. My vision wavered between clarity and blur, the scene above a wavering painting. Pain blossomed where my head had struck the raft's barnacled underside, a hot blossom that spread across my skull. I tasted bile and seawater, a briny swirl that coated my tongue. My chest tightened, bones compressing, and I felt a single, astonishing heartbeat. Slow, deliberate, final. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that I was dying. Yet, alongside the terror came an odd serenity. As my lungs cried out for breath, I realized I hadn't gasped. There was no breath to hold, no panic to fuel. My mind drifted free of panic, untethered from the urgent thrum of life. Awareness hovered at the edge of nothingness, a silent witness to my body's ending. Time unraveled. Memories flickered. Peter's mischievous grin as he showed me how to swing on the ropes, my father's firm hand guiding my first bicycle ride, the comforting warmth of my mother's hug after I scraped my knee. Each image shimmered, then dissolved, like faint embers dying in a breeze. In the strangest instant, I felt the world split in two. My flesh, cold, heavy, sinking, seemed miles away, and I, light, curious, oddly calm, floated above, a pinpoint of awareness hovering just beneath the raft, observing the rigid angles of my submerged form. One heartbeat ago, I was wholly myself. The next, I was merely witness. Then came the blankness, a sudden snuffing out of all sensation, as if someone had drawn a curtain across my mind. No fear, no sound, no pain, just the deep, resonant quiet of absolute absence. In that blank space, I felt neither alive nor dead, only weightless, drifting beyond the edge of existence. And yet, even in that expanse, a flicker of something stirred, a gentle pulse of curiosity, a faint promise that this wasn't the end but the threshold of something beyond. One heartbeat, I was alive. The next, a blankness I can't unsee. Behind me, to my right, a luminous being materialized. It took a while to grasp that I was perceiving this entity, even though it wasn't within my direct line of sight. The being addressed me in the most comforting male voice, using my nickname, Kuka. Its presence instantly put me at ease, and inexplicably, I recognized it as my angel of light, a concept entirely new to me. I had no sense of falling or rising, only the quiet drift of awareness as though I were a mote of dust suspended in clear water. My body lay motionless below, head tilted back, hair fanning out in dark tendrils. I felt neither panic nor cold, merely a strange buoyancy, as if gravity itself had loosened its grip. The world took on an unearthly clarity. Every mote of detritus in the water glowed like starlight suspended in gel. Flecks of plankton traced slow spirals around me, moving in choreographed arcs that hinted at hidden currents. The barnacled underside of the raft became a vaulted ceiling of antique wood, its grooves and knots etched in crisp relief. I drifted through this inverted cathedral, my senses alive to every vibration, every ripple of light. Then I noticed the body of Peter, silhouetted on the pier above, arms outstretched as he called my name. His voice was distant, muffled, but I felt its tremor run through me. I wanted to reach him, to propel myself upward, but my limbs refused to obey. They were shadows of flesh, left behind in this silent realm. That's when I sensed the being, a warmth behind my right shoulder, a presence so gentle it felt like a whisper against my cheek. I turned, or rather, my vantage shifted, and I saw him. He stood a little higher in the water's glow, tall and slender, draped in a robe of shifting white light. His face was serene, features soft and androgynous, yet undeniably male in its calm strength. He did not move his lips, yet his voice filled the space around me. Kuka. The single syllable resonated like a chime in a still garden. It carried no judgment, only recognition. I knew that name, though I had never spoken it aloud here, an intimate nickname from my earliest days. With that one utterance, the walls between flesh and spirit dissolved. I tried to speak back, but no sound emerged. Instead, I felt a gentle vibration in my chest, as though my heart were humming. Then he extended a hand, delicate fingers unfurling like blossoms, and the light around him pulsed in soft ripples. Through him, I felt a current of affection, of protection, unlike anything I had ever known. He reached toward my body on the harbor floor, and I felt a bond, a silken thread connecting my consciousness to the shell of my form. In that moment, I realized I was both within and beyond my own being, floating free, yet tethered by that slender thread of connection. He guided me upward, though neither of us moved in a physical sense. Instead, I sensed an invisible swell beneath me, a current lifting me through layers of water until the world above bled into view. Light poured down in fractured beams, each ray dancing with drifting particles. I moved through ribbons of brightness, the water's surface shimmering like molten glass. As we ascended, he revealed more of this realm. To my left, I glimpsed a field of tall grass swaying in a breeze I could not feel. To my right, a vast expanse of sky stretched overhead, roiling with clouds that glowed softly from within. Each scene flickered like a lantern in the dark, offering glimpses of places both familiar and impossibly distant. It was as though I were drifting through the memories of creation itself, landscapes unbound by geography or time. Through all of it, his presence was constant, a silent companion, guiding and comforting. I noticed the steady rhythm of his own essence, a slow, measured pulse that anchored the swirling wonder around me. In his light, I saw no fear, no doubt, only a vast ocean of calm and acceptance. Then, without warning, the panorama shifted, a panorama of my own life unfurled on a screen of water. There was the day I learned to ride my bike, teetering on the pavement, my father's hand on my back. There was the taste of burnt porridge after I'd dozed at the table, and the scold that followed. There was Peter's laughter echoing through the harbor on warmer days, his hand splashing water in my face. Each scene played out without commentary, yet every image was suffused with emotion, joy, guilt, longing, regret. I tried to linger on the moments of joy, my mother's lullabies, my first catch of mackerel on a fishing pole, but the flashes kept speeding forward, highlighting my mistakes. The lie I told Mrs. Holm about the missing eggs, the time I broke my sister's porcelain doll and blamed the cat. Each vignette glowed with crisp precision, as though a sacred mirror held up to my life. Through it all, the angel spoke in that low, echoing tone. "You are more than these moments, Kuka. You're woven into a larger tapestry." His words stirred something deep within me, a flicker of hope, a spark of purpose. I realized he was not merely a guide, but a keeper of truths I had yet to understand. He showed me that my life was not a series of random events, but a path with a pattern, threads weaving through each choice and consequence. As the montage reached the moment I slipped under the raft, it paused. I felt a tug at my essence, gentle but insistent, as though the next act in my story awaited me. I looked back at my body, limbs still, pale in the green light, and then at the doorway of shimmering white that appeared before the angel. It beckoned with soft radiance, promising knowledge, healing, an existence beyond pain. I felt an urge to step through, to abandon fear and flesh forever, to merge with that boundless calm. Yet, even as the light whispered my name, I felt the slender thread pull me back, to the harbor, to Peter, to the world of sun-cracked boards and summer tides. A faint echo of longing for home stirred within me, fragile but real. The angel inclined his head, eyes glowing with gentle certainty. No words were needed. I understood that my path lay in return, that the gift of this vision was meant to shape my life above the water's surface. And then, as if a curtain had fallen, the light contracted, the panorama faded, and I sensed the pressure of water reclaiming me. The angel's presence receded to a soft hum, still echoing in my mind, as gravity began its slow, inevitable pull. In that final moment of drift I held both realms in balance, hovering between the luminous vastness of the unseen and the familiar pull of earth and ocean. One breathless instant, and then I began to descend, the veil closing gently around me, carrying the memory of that realm back into the world of flesh and tide. Before me, an expansive scroll of images unfurled, and the angel of light presented my entire life in vivid detail, up to the moment I entered the water. As the angel spoke, a growing sense of recognition stirred within me, though I couldn't pinpoint how I knew him or his identity. With a gentle, pleasant smile, he declared, "Now you are returning to the world, and you will become someone who heals the sick, and you will also pursue something else connected to music." A hush, deeper than any silence I had known, settled around me as the film unfurled in the pale green glow of that watery realm. The air, or whatever replaced it, carried the faint warmth of a summer sunrise, though no sun shone here. I became aware of a subtle heat bathing my skin, like the soft press of sunlight through a stained glass window. The light vibrated gently against every cell, as if the very essence of unconditional love could be measured in degrees of warmth. The being's voice, low and resonant, wove itself through my consciousness. "This is who you have been, Kuka. This is who you are, threaded through joy, mistake, hope, and fear." His tone was neither reproachful nor distant. It was the sound of a parent comforting a child after a fall, of a healer's hands tracing the outlines of an ache. With every whispered word, I felt my ribcage uncoil, my heart unclench, as though his voice carried a balm for every wound I had ever inflicted upon myself. The film shifted, and I was no longer an observer, but a participant. I saw myself at 5 years old, perched on the low wall outside the village school, watching the other children run free while I lingered with a half crumb of bread, clutching it like a treasure. I felt again the shame that had settled in my throat when the teacher called me lazy. I tasted the salt of my tears as I retreated beneath the linden tree to cry alone. Then the scene blurred, and I was 9. My sister's porcelain doll shattered across the tiled floor after I threw it in anger, jealous of the attention she received. The crack of ceramic echoed through me anew, and I knew again that sting of guilt. Next came a kinder moment, a spring afternoon when I fished with my father, his broad hand steadying mine as I reeled in a wriggling mackerel. The sunlight dappled the harbor's surface, and he laughed at my squeal when the fish thrashed against the hook. In that memory, I felt the pure delight of his pride and the simple pleasure of a father's love that needed no words. Then the montage darkened. I relived the lie I told Mrs. Holm about the missing eggs, the lie that made her frown so deeply she thought her hens had been stolen. I felt the tight knot in my stomach each time I saw her disappointed eyes. I tasted again the bitterness of my own deceit. Through it all, the angel's form remained luminous but impassive, wings unfurled in the surrounding glow. He did not reach out to stop the reel of images. He let them wash through me like tidal surges, honoring each moment as part of the whole. Then he paused the film at the moment of my greatest fear, slipping beneath the raft, the world spinning out of control. The hush returned. Then, almost imperceptibly, the light around him brightened until it felt like standing inside a pearl, every surface glowing from within. The warmth turned electric, not scorching but full-bodied, like the radiance of a candle flame that somehow filled an entire cathedral. I heard a sound too deep for ears, a vibration that thrummed through my bones, the voice of creation itself murmuring in resonance. "You are loved beyond measure," he intoned. The words did not echo. They descended like rain, soaking into me. "Your life is a gift, not for your perfection but for your willing heart. You will heal. You will sing. You will hold light in places of darkness." In that flux of heat and sound, I felt the remembrances of every moment expand, transform from mere recollection into living potential. My missteps were not stains but markers on a pilgrimage. My joys were seeds of compassion yet to bloom. The realization flooded me with such wonder that tears, unbidden and warm, coursed down my cheeks, though no water could touch my face in this realm. He spoke once more, gently. "Will you go back?" His lips did not move. The question formed directly in my mind, unspoken yet unmistakable. I looked again at my lying, guilty child self, then at the loving face of my father teaching me to fish, then at the battered doll in the egg basket. Each image pulsed with the possibility of redemption, of purpose. My choice lay before me as clearly as a forked path in a sunlit wood. My breath, or what passed for breath, caught in my chest as I found the core of my being waking to a single truth. This journey was mine to finish, that the living world needed the gift I had glimpsed here. And so, with a trembling certainty, I answered, "Because I cannot leave the world I love without bringing its light back to those who still search in darkness." My vision then went dark, and the next thing I recall, I opened my eyes to meet the gaze of a man leaning over me. Breathing raggedly, I turned to my side and coughed up sea foam. My face and hair were covered in slime and seawater. The light receded like a tide pulling back from the shore, and with it, the crystalline calm dissolved into the pressure and chill of water. In the blink of an eye, the hushed realm of gentle warmth was replaced by a sharp intake of breath, or the strangled attempt at one. My chest heaved as I broke the surface, gasping in salt and air I hadn't felt in what seemed like an eternity. Everything felt too loud. The splash of my head breaking through the water, the frantic splatter of feet on the raft's barnacled deck, the distressed cries of my own voice mingling with Peter's urgent shout. Pain lanced through my skull where I'd struck the wood, each heartbeat punching pain through my temples. My arms and legs burned as I thrashed, half drowned, half desperate to emerge. Strong hands gripped me, first Peter's small, trembling fingers in my hair, then a fisherman's rough palms under my shoulders. They hauled me gasping onto the raft, sand and seaweed scraping against my skin. I bit back both relief and panic as I collapsed onto the sun-warmed boards, my shirt plastered to my chest, salt crusting at my eyes like shards of glass. I turned my head and vomited sea foam into the planks, coughing until my lungs felt raw. Every breath felt borrowed. Every exhale rattled in my throat. Above me, the sky was too bright, the sun an intrusive spotlight. Shadows cut harsh lines across the quay, where a small crowd had gathered, fishermen wiping nets, housewives clutching baskets, a pair of uniformed policemen hurrying forward. Their faces blended concern with disbelief, as though they could not quite reconcile the child they knew with the spectacle I had become. I tried to sit up, but my body refused. A dull ache radiated through my ribs and wet sand shifted beneath me. My vision swam as if the world were a fisheye painting, edges bending and blurring. Peter knelt beside me, his face pale, eyes wide with relief and terror. He didn't speak. His mouth worked soundlessly, like a dying fish, and all I could see was the raw guilt in his gaze. Someone wrapped a coarse blanket around me. I felt its scratchy fibers press against my damp skin, mingled with the smell of fish oil and wood smoke. A woman, cheeks flushed with alarm, dabbed my forehead with a handkerchief. Her voice was gentle but urgent. "Child, can you hear me? Are you all right?" I blinked, and the edges of the harbor sharpened, the nets hanging from rusted hooks, a stray seagull flapping frantically overhead, the tip of the pier's lantern swaying in the breeze. The world I had left behind felt alien, dissonant. My heart hammered in my ears, an urgent drum reminding me that I was tethered to flesh once more. Through the murk of fear and pain, I caught a glimpse of myself, pale, trembling, eyes glazed with salt water. The realization struck me in a jolt. I was returned, but I was not the same. Part of me lingered in that realm of light, still humming with warmth and purpose. My body, slick with slime and sea spray, felt like a reluctant vessel dragged back from some sacred threshold. Voices swirled around me, the fishermen repeating, "He's breathing, he's breathing." Peter's small whimper, the woman murmuring, "Thank God," and the distant clamor of a man running barefoot down the pier, my father no doubt summoned by word of mouth. Each voice bounced off the raft's hull, layering concern, confusion, skepticism. I swallowed, tasting salt and fear. My throat felt raw, but I managed a rasped whisper, I'm okay." The words cracked apart like fragile driftwood. No one could see the trembling calm beneath, the steady hum of that other world pulsing in my chest. A policeman clicked open a pocket watch, eyes darting between the timepiece and my face. "We need to know what happened," he said softly, glancing at Peter. "You two were playing on the raft?" His tone was gentle but firm, as though he suspected more than a child's accident. Peter lifted his head, eyes rimmed red. We were just playing," he said, voice small. "He jumped, slipped. I pulled him up by his hair." He glanced at me, guilt tightening his features. "I thought he was dead." Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. Some shook their heads, others scolded Peter for his recklessness. I felt a flicker of defensiveness for him. He had been my savior, but the raft's rough boards jammed into my palms, reminding me of the raw reality. My vision flickered again. Memory flashes of the light's embrace, the film of my life, the angel's gentle promise. A fierce clarity burned in me. I carried more than these bruises and these questions. In that tumult of pain and scrutiny, I sensed the fragile thread that bound me to the living world, and beyond it, the luminous promise that would guide me home. I closed my eyes, drawing in the crash of waves against the quay, the distant toll of a church bell, the soft sob of Peter at my side. My body ached, my spirit trembled, but beneath it all, the ember of that higher light glowed. Even as the world pressed in, doubtful faces, sharp questions, the sting of returning, it felt impossible to forget what had touched me beneath the surface. And in that jarring re-entry, torn between realms, I knew I could never be unmade. The world had pulled me back, but I was already on a new course, and nothing, not fear, nor pain, nor disbelief, could strip away the glow that now lived at my core. Upon returning home, the world felt simultaneously intensely vivid and strangely far away. I found myself wakened before dawn, drawn by a light I could still sense at the base of my skull. I stopped hitting the snooze button. A small journal appeared by my bedside, where I began sketching melodies that drifted into my mind. And each evening I offered what comfort I could, however small, by volunteering at the little clinic down the lane. The morning after I nearly drowned, I woke at 4:57 a.m. The clock's tiny red numerals glowed against the darkness, but I didn't reach for the snooze button as I always had. Instead, I sat up, heart humming with a quiet urgency, and swung my feet onto the cold floor. For the first time in memory, I felt drawn toward the window rather than away from it. Habit shift. 1. Dawn vigil. Each day since, I have risen before sunrise. I stand at the sill of my bedroom window, hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea, watching as the first thread of gold stretches across the harbor. The light, in those moments, is soft and trembling, dancing on the water's surface exactly as it did when the angel guided me upward. I breathe in the salt-tinged air and whisper a quiet greeting to the world. I am alive, and I remember. Habit shift. 2. Journal of Echoes. Beside my bed sits a leather-bound journal, its pages heavy with ink and graphite. Every morning I record the echoes of what I experienced, the color of the light, the hush of the deep, the angel's voice calling Kuka. By evening, I sketch the melodies that drift through my mind, ethereal strains of song that were never learned, but somehow remembered. My hands ache sometimes from writing and from tracing musical staffs, but the ache feels good, a reminder that I am flesh and blood and that I carry something divine within me. Habit shift. 3. Hands that heal. I have begun volunteering at the village clinic, offering simple comforts, a cool cloth on fevered brows, a soft word to the anxious, a gentle touch to a trembling hand. I do not know how or why, but as I lay my palm on a patient's shoulder, I sometimes feel a warmth there, a ripple of energy that seems to soothe more than words ever could. The other nurses watch me curiously, but I say only that I am honored to help. Each evening, I close my eyes and feel the resonance of that healing touch echoing in my own chest. One afternoon, as I walked home through the narrow lanes, I paused beneath the old linden tree where I once hid to cry at school. Sunlight filtered through the emerald leaves, casting shifting patterns on the cobblestones. A stray cat curled at my feet, purring so loudly I swear I could hear it in my rib cage. I knelt to stroke its fur. It looked up at me with knowing eyes, as if it recognized the light I carried. For a moment, the ordinary world glowed with wonder. flowers in full bloom at the church gate, the distant laughter of children, the scent of freshly baked bread drifting from Mrs. Holmes' oven. That night, I sat by my window again, the journal open on my lap. A single candle flickered beside me, its golden flame dancing shadows on the wall. I listened to the hushed pulse at the back of my mind, the echo of that realm beyond the water, and I realized how deeply my life had shifted. No longer did I dread the coming day. Instead, I awaited it with quiet anticipation, eager to greet the dawn, to record my visions, to offer healing hands. I thought of Peter, of course, and of the secret pact we made, to always remember the world as a child sees it. I planned to tell him, one day, about the angel and the film of my life. But for now, our shared silence feels sacred, a promise held between us. As the candle guttered and the harbor lights blinked on far below, I paused and closed my eyes, feeling the shimmer of that other world brushing against the edges of my consciousness. A single thought settled in my heart, both tender and unshakable. Every time I breathe, I carry a piece of that other world with me.
Hello everyone, I'm the creator of this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means everything. Please hit the like button, subscribe for more stories, and share your own experiences in the comments below. Remember, God watches over you and every day is a gift. May your life be filled with blessings.